Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spiral Out Podcast. I am your host, Chris West. On today's episode, we have the very fun, the very entertaining, the very talented Travis Lampe. This was probably one of the funnest episodes that I have recorded. I was very impressed by Travis, just as an all-around human being, an artist, a working man. He was hilarious. He was very kind to me. Super fun episode. I'm really excited to have him on. Stay tuned for that. But before that, the podcast is expanding. Soon we will have YouTube videos. There'll be a Patreon for special stuff, a store where you released a fun little print for people if you're interested in that. Expansion 2023. And please be patient. I do all of this by myself. Finding the people to be on the podcast, editing, website building, anything that has to do with this podcast, I do alone, about 99%. But nonetheless, I hope you enjoy this episode. It was extremely exciting to have Travis on. He's a great artist, very, very talented, and very, very funny, witty, all of those great things. Enjoy. Spiral Out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiral Out Podcast. I'm your host, Chris West, and on today's show, we have Travis Lampe.
How's it going?
Right?
Thanks for having me. Am I supposed to say something?
No. Whatever's natural. Travis has done tons and tons of art, but specifically related to kind of what we talk about on the show, you did the Tool poster for Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Colorado Springs, yeah.
Yeah. And then you had also did a Pusser poster back in 2016.
I did, yeah. That's right. That was a while back.
Yeah. Just right off the bat, first question I have is, can you think of a big difference between doing the Pusser poster and doing the Tool poster? Like, situationally, how were they different?
I mean, there is a big difference. The Pucifer poster I did more as line art and kind of layers, as if I was going to screen print it. I'm not sure why I made that choice at the time, but I was doing some other posters too. I did some for Primus, and
seen those.
And I for some reason at that time, that's just how I was doing the posters. I got in my mind that I needed to keep them simple. But then when it came to the Tool poster, I don't know. I think they were looking for my painterly style anyway, and that people prefer that from me. I think I've done in a lot of shows, I mostly what I do is acrylic painting, like in the Tool poster.
Sure.
But I will always experiment with, some more like silk screeny type techniques or gouache or something like that. And, people like that all right, but I don't think it's what they want from me.
From you specifically. Because we do talk to a lot of, I've talked to a lot of the Tool artists, and they seem, not all of them, but they seem to be more, this is going to sound mean, but I don't mean it that way, painters and like fine artists and such. And then when you get into like Puscifer and Primus stuff, it's a lot of poster artists. They do that for a living. You don't do that for a living. I mean you have. No, but you don't like go through each of the like 30 bands and make a poster for each one of them, No,
I've only done a few. Really, it's mainly those. Actually, I think that's it. I think we listed them all already.
I think you did.
The band posters they've done.
The Primus one, I think, the Puscifer one, and the Tool one.
Yeah.
That's all I could find.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds about right.
First of all, did you draw it for Tool, or was it already a painting of yours?
No. I did it specifically for them. Although it's funny because, and I feel like they kind of branched out a little bit on this last tour with this
100%.
kind of art, that they put on their posters, which I don't get me wrong. I've loved the posters they've done in the past. But it was refreshing and pretty cool to see, like, this kind of new styles, coming up on the posters. And I gotta say, when they asked me to do it, I was a little nervous because I didn't know at that time who else was going to be doing it. Camille did one. There were who else?
Alex Kuno, which I think you may not know.
Yes, and there's one.
There's a ton.
I've got a block with names, so I'll think of it later and I'll yell it out. But anyways, but it was very diverse and a kind of a different style. But I didn't know that yet, and I was kind of nervous because I thought, well, my stuff, it just doesn't look like what they normally do. Like, what am I going to do? And then I finally just decided I'm just going to do what I do, because I do have there is kind of a dark,
for sure, 100%
undercurrent to my work, even though on the surface it's kind of 1930s, cartoony style mixed with Dr. Seuss.
Right. I hear Steamboat Willie a lot. I actually have this written down. Question: how often do you hear your art described with the word whimsy?
I do get that. I do hear that. Yeah, you see it written a lot. And then it's funny you mentioned Steamboat Willie, because I had a near religious experience when I was a kid. They used to have matinees at the theater back in those days. This is like 1 million years ago.
Well, you don't look a day over like 35.
I know. I look great. But I'm very old. I'm so very old.
I don't believe it.
I grew back up in ancient times and was at a matinee, just kids, like on a Tuesday or something in the summer, and they played a Steamboat Willie cartoon, and it really, even at the time, it felt like I was having some kind of an out of body experience, or like, that may be exaggerating, but it's like I found something, that I just keyed in on that. And then later on, when I started doing art, I kind of naturally just gravitated towards that kind of a theme.
Do you know, was it a specific scene, or like, was it just the tone?
Oh, just the whole thing.
Like,
just the whole thing. And I remember at the time complaining to my, or like voicing the opinion to my parents and my brother and stuff, that it kind of made me not like the new, at the time, Mickey Mouse stuff, because I didn't understand why they would have such a great style with this Steamboat Willie and then abandon that for like the style that they did in like the 60s and 70s, and and it evolved over time. Sure. Obviously, I mean, that's inevitable.
I can't even watch anything like that nowadays. It's too digitally reproduced.
Oh yeah.
And but no, I'm like super curious about why you had this moment, I guess, with Steamboat Willie. And maybe it's not something you can actually explain, but it's just very interesting to me.
I think it had to do with the music partly, and the rubbery arms and legs. Like, I just thought that was so funny.
Huh.
And it's very graphic because it was all black and white, right? And the music throughout the entire cartoon, all the characters are bouncing up and down to the music the whole time. And I don't know, it's just something just funny, and I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, it is exactly. An aesthetic.
And maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, don't examine it too closely.
Right? All you know is now you do paintings where you hate elbows and knees.
I do. I probably painted 3 elbows total over my career.
I've looked for them. I couldn't find them. Back to the Tool poster. So I'm guessing Adam Jones contacts you, right?
Yes, that's right.
You mentioned Camille Rose Garcia, who's on the show. Great, nice. lady. Do you guys all have a past? Because she somehow knew him from school. I'm wondering if you were also in that school group.
I think I met them both on the same night. This was many years ago now, but Corey Helford Gallery was having a big artist get together before one of their big openings, and I got invited to that, and it was crazy. It was a crazy night because Camille was like a hero of mine. She has kind of she in her past she's done some very kind of black and white, old cartoony feeling stuff, and I think that's what she was doing at the time. And I love her stuff, and I met her that night, and that was crazy. And I think I met Adam that night too. I think he was there with Corin Fought, his wife, who is also an artist.
Yeah.
There was like a million artists there, and I met so many people, and it was such a great experience. But I hung out with Adam very briefly. He's such a nice dude, and we've very sparsely stayed in contact over the years, I guess. And he sent me a message asking if I wanted to do it, and it wasn't even a question.
You're like, yes, I will.
Even if he'd have been in some dumb band that I didn't care about, I still would have done it.
Agreed. So he tells you got X amount of time to do this Tool poster. How do you attack it? Because again, doing research on you, anybody listening, the Colorado Springs poster is 2 trees, right? And they're like grilling. Yeah. They have, I don't know what kind of facial expressions those are, but they kind of look scared, but also not, like a little evil, but they're grilling hot dogs.
Yeah.
And there's some fire.
And one of them's caught on fire.
That's right. One of them's on fire. There's some guy's legs, I think, in the background. There's an axe with some blood and some other trees in the background. I guess, can you walk me through just conception, like idea, conception, execution, and all that?
So first of all, the trees, that's a kind of a recurring characters that I've been doing for a long time.
I call them species. It's like you got the same species of different.
Yes, exactly. I like that. But yeah, I've been doing those forever. And part of my thinking was I wanted to do something that I loved, and that I had kind of established and that I knew other people liked. Even though really, I mean, this is kind of a new audience for me in a way, right? Like this poster, a Tool poster. Sure. It turns out there's some kind of a Venn diagram of my art and Tool fans, right? But I didn't know.
I would love to see this.
Well, it's in my mind. It's just a Venn diagram.
Okay. I'm like, do I have to draw this now, or sorry, 2 circles?
Yeah, no. But I wanted to do something that I kind of established already, and that I knew people were into. So that's why the trees. Plus, as far as their expression goes, that's the only expression they can do. But I try to, through situationally, make it mean different things. But it's also up for interpretation. I'm actually happy that you can't quite pinpoint what's going on there. I mean, one of them is on fire. So
yeah, one of them is on fire for sure. He's
alarmed.
I guess I want to say the blue one.
The blue, bluish. Bluish.
Because there's a blue and a green guy. So again, how did you wanted to do something that was definitely you, something established, but I don't want to say this one's darker than most of your art, but it definitely seems a little on the darker side comparatively. Background wise,
I would say, in terms of actual color,
yeah.
Well, I was trying to stay back to when I was talking about, I didn't know what other artists were going to be involved. Brandy Milne is another one, friend of mine, artist friend of mine, who did another poster.
Which one did they do?
She did. It was like a clown.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly.
Collar, kind of skull face. Yeah. Yep. But I didn't know that those people were involved, and so I didn't know, what I should do exactly, because you're right. I do a lot of stuff that's very colorful, like yellow backgrounds, bright, poppy, and all that. I wanted to do something that I felt like could be associated with Tool. So I was like, okay, well, it should be something at night, because at least that'll give it a little bit of creepiness, right? I wanted to have a single light source, which is why I did the fire, because I wanted it to have kind of a creepy, spooky, and plus I just enjoy the challenge of that. But I wanted a single light source so I could get kind of a creepy vibe going. Plus I just was kind of into the challenge of that. I usually just do kind of a generic 3/4 light source, because I'm impatient and I just want to get paintings knocked out, And it's like, oh yeah, I'll just do it like this. This is the way I always shade it. But for this one, I wanted to be very intentional about the light, and so that's why it's at night. What else can I tell you about it?
What about just idea in general? Why? What, like? So I guess I'm just trying to get into your brain of like, okay, I know I want to do these characters. I know I want it to be at night and have a single source. Still, because again, I don't draw or paint at all. So this podcast is kind of like exploratory for me, of like trying to learn and get into artists' heads. And one of the things I'm so interested in is, when does the image pop into your brain of like, okay, I know where I'm going to go. I know
this one I did a lot of sketches for.
Gotcha.
Because I wanted to get it right. I'm often, when I'm doing art, I'm often very spontaneous, I guess. I'll just kind of have a rough idea, and I'll just start painting. This one I wanted to make sure, because it's got to fit a certain format, a certain size. I knew there was going to have to be type in there.
Gotcha.
The tool graphic up top. I knew it was going to have stuff at the bottom, so I planned it out a little more. I planned it out more like I would an illustration.
Sure.
I used to do like more like illustration back in the day.
Do you have any of those original sketches?
I do.
I would love to see those.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. I probably have them right here somewhere. But it did take me a little while. It took me I probably took 4 or 5 days or a week to just sit with it, sketch some stuff out, then come back to it and make sure that it was really what I wanted to do.
You do a bunch of sketches, and you finally get the one you like, right? And then you're like, all right, I'm gonna now paint it.
Yes. So this might be an appropriate time to address the rumor. There was a rumor bouncing around that this painting was based on a fire that happened in Colorado or near Colorado Springs back in, I don't know if you heard about this.
No, not at all. This is awesome.
I was getting DMs from a lot of people who had managed to buy the poster, and and just people who were curious.
The Great Colorado Springs Fire of '94. I'm just kidding.
Something like that, yeah, or like 1980 or it would have been in 2001 or 2 or something. I think it was the Hayden Fire or the Hayman Fire, something like that. Yeah, look it up. It was a big thing. Apparently, somebody in the Forest Service accidentally started it, and it ended up causing crazy damage and lots of destruction of forests and all that. And apparently, somewhere out there, the rumor got started that that's what this was about, because the legs you see sticking in from the side, that's one of my other characters. It's a woodsman character that I do.
Okay.
And you only see the legs in this one, I guess, but the axe, that's his axe. And so people, I think, took those pieces, put them together, and thought that that's what I was painting. And I do have relatives that live in Colorado Springs, and so it was a big deal when that fire happened. I remember, but the painting is not based on that. It just was a creepy thing that I thought was fun.
Maybe it was some type of collective unconscious or something.
Maybe.
You never know, right?
You never know.
How long did it take you to actually paint it, and how big is the painting?
It's poster size. I just went ahead and did it 18 by 24.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it on canvas?
Nope. I almost always paint on wood panel.
So how does that work?
It's just wood. You just prime it,
okay.
Like you would a wall, right? Or with primer, and then you it's just a different painting surface, right? The canvas has got to give to it.
Sure.
It also has a great texture that kind of takes your paint in a different way, but I prefer the kind of solid, smooth surface of a wood panel for whatever reason.
Do you buy them at Michael's or I
get mine from Blick. Yeah.
Okay.
But you probably could buy them at Michael's.
I'm also learning about different canvases and stuff too. So
yeah,
I've heard people
they have different grades of them.
I hear people say oh, I paint on wood, and I'm less like, okay, do you just find a piece of wood and you're like, I'm going to paint this now?
But some people probably do that.
Yeah.
And some people build their own too. I don't. I'm too lazy. I'm inherently lazy. So
me too.
Which is why I normally don't plan paintings quite so tightly as I did this one. But yeah, I just buy them from Blick, and then so that was 18 by 24. I don't know if you know this, but you always want to, obviously, I think for something like that's going to be printed, you always want to paint it bigger, the same size or bigger than what the output is going to be, because otherwise it loses definition and stuff, degrades the image. Exactly. So
I think it's kind of sketchy even doing it 18 by 24, right? You're like, oh, maybe I'm a millimeter off or something.
Oh, no, there's a little bit of, because the stuff I paint is very organic and kind of loose anyway, that, it's very wobbly and there's lines going all over the place. So I knew there's, as long as you make sure there's enough room for the graphic elements that are going to have to go on there later, it's not that hard.
Why the hot dog?
Oh, I did that at the last minute. Okay, so here's something. I didn't know for sure it was going to be a hot dog, I think, until I had already gotten going.
Sure.
There were some elements of it that I was like, okay, I know I want it to be the trees. I know I want them to be on fire. I know the woodsman's going to be dead. Like they, mugged him and took his, that's what it ended up being. They mugged him, took his hot dog on a stick, and were roasting it when one of them caught on fire. So these particular trees are evil.
Sure.
You could say. Sometimes in my painting, it's ambiguous. Sometimes the woodsman's the evil one, and the trees are the good guys. Sometimes I flip it, but I'm never usually, except I guess I just did, I never usually reveal.
You want me to cut that out?
No, you don't have to.
First of all, I really like it.
Thanks.
It's really cool. I'm sure you've heard a bunch of rumors and statements now about it. The number one being when I talked about this online, the wavy, car salesman, floppy air guys. Yeah. I'm sure you get that a lot. That must be. Yep. That must be. Is it annoying?
No. What are those guys called? Windsock man.
Yeah, wavy inflatable. Guys.
They are very much like that. And you know what? For my next show, I should make one. I should make a windsock tree. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it.
Like an actual one, or like you're going to paint one?
No, like an actual one.
Yeah, because you make toys and stuff, and
I do.
like the drops, the drips.
Yeah, the drips. Yeah, my tear drips.
And you have a bunch of cool. I don't like to say this word because it doesn't sound substantial because your stuff is substantial, but you make a lot of knickknacks.
Oh yeah. I mean, I like the word knickknacks. Yeah, I make a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I've actually got stuff in the works right now, new toys and stuff. That it's amazing how long that process can take. Sometimes it happens right away. I've done plushes and stuff that got turned around in a matter of months. Sometimes when you're partnering up with another artist and like it's their toy base, but you're doing like a version of it. I can show you an example of that. Theodoru makes these base characters.
Okay.
They asked me to do my artist version of it, and so I customized it by adding the nose. That's kind of my signature nose, and then the ears, the fin ears, are from another character I do called Chauncey. If you can see that.
Yeah, I definitely can see it. Well,
but that kind of stuff turns around pretty quick usually. But then, I've got a couple of toy projects that are in the works right now that have been going on for years now.
So who? This may be a rude question. I don't mean it to be. Who buys these toys? Like, are they?
Good question, Chris. Who are these people?
Who are these people? Like, because it doesn't feel like they're geared towards kids, right? So
no. It's adults.
Is it
adults.
Is it fans of yours? Do you think it's like other collectors? For for example, tool pushers, and I'll get into this. I'm sure you've experienced it now, but they're nuts. Like,
oh yes,
they go everything Tool comes out with goes in seconds. So I mean, there's that. I can see the reason for that. Tool, yada yada, different artists. It's all cool. It all meshes. Doesn't matter what's put out. There's something behind it. It seems, and it's gone immediately. The toys.
Yeah.
Looking through your Instagram and stuff, I'm like, these are super cool. Who's buying them? Like I don't.
Yeah, it's I think partly it is. You're right. It is just it's fans, but then there's also people who are just into designer toys, right? Like that's their thing. You know what I mean?
So I've never heard that term before.
Yeah,
designer
no,
toys.
that's kind of how I got started in all of this. Kind of was it? That was like my second show ever. Was at Rotofugi here in Chicago. And they are a designer toy store. And they've got, it's stuff you put on a shelf. Like I've got a shelf just to my right here that's full of toys I've collected over the years.
Gotcha.
From other artists.
And again, I didn't mean that in a rude way. Like I'm genuinely curious because again, before hearing the term you just used, designer toys, I'm like, I felt it somewhere. Like it must be something I don't quite have the word for, but that makes perfect sense.
No, it's true though. But it's the same thing with the posters, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was such a crazy trade around these posters. It's insane. And I did my best when I put them up to, I limited it to one per person and all that to try to make sure that like real fans were actually getting it, and and I kept the price lower than I needed to just because I wanted like actual people to be able to get a hold of them.
That was that was a big question. Sorry, go. I'll let you finish.
Oh no! I was just gonna say that they were gone in 8 seconds.
Yeah,
literally 8 seconds.
Because I remember when yours dropped, and I think you were one of the first ones. And everybody was so shocked online by how cheap they were comparatively. Yeah. And people were like, should we message him and tell him not to do this? Like,
no, you know what? I knew I could charge more. But the thing is, how do I put this? I love money. Money is great.
I love money.
But I don't need money. I don't need more money enough to feel like I'm screwing people over, right? Or I don't know. How how do I put this?
Let me try.
I wanted people who maybe didn't have. This is ridiculous. I'm a horrible business person. I wanted people who maybe weren't like just rich people or scalpers or whatever to be able to get their hands on these. And at the end of the day, I consider it a success. Like whatever I made off of the posters was fine by me. So I could have maximized it. I could have probably doubled the price easily.
Way more.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just wasn't.
I like it. I get it. Because that was from when I heard about your drop. Because I've never talked to you before or anything. I was very curious because I have talked to probably 10 or so different poster artists, and again, everybody has a different situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's one of the cool things about what Adam is doing, plucking some of these artists that may not be as successful as you or may not have as many things going on as somebody else, but or
it may just be that posters are their thing. You know what I mean? Like that. One of their main sources of income, or
this
whatever.
This is their shot. You know what I'm saying? This was their first, big shot. There were a couple of them that I talked to where they literally haven't done anything professionally other than post online, and they got a tool poster and they're like, I made $50,000. And
I'm so happy for those people.
Exactly.
Great.
And I respect what you were saying as well. You didn't necessarily have to do that. Which is, cool in its own right. So thank you. or thank you on behalf of the people that got them in the 8 seconds.
All of you are very welcome.
Did you doodle any of them? Like, did you?
Oh yeah. They, there were, I think I charged a very small amount, to have, what's the term for that? I learned it on this. To remark them. I didn't know that before. I'd never heard that term before. And people were like, can you remark these? And I'm like, I maybe can if I look that up in a dictionary. I'm not sure what that means.
You want to hear something really funny?
Yeah.
I was talking when I did the interview with Camille. She called it remarques. And I was like, wait, have I been saying it wrong the whole time? And I feel like she would know.
So he was right. He was right.
I have no idea. I'm not going to question her.
Because what's funny is I also, until you said it, I thought of it as remarque.
Yeah.
Because it's spelled the French way.
Exactly.
But I don't know how people here say it. So.
I mean, the average person online says remarks. But, again, somebody like Camille, I believe she has the knowledge and history to be able to say it correctly. So if I had to guess, it's remarques.
Yeah. All right. Now we know.
Right. Did you have a name for this poster?
No. It's the there is a name for it. Yes. Sorry. That was a total lie because when the call came in to do the poster, gotcha. I had just started working on painting for a show that I just had a couple of weeks ago at Corey Helford Gallery.
Was that the sorry.
All signs point to no.
Yes.
Yes. I had just started painting for that show, and I have a day job, right? I'm not a full-time artist all the time. So I paint from like 5 in the morning till 9, and then I work, and then I also paint on the weekends. So I knew that all of my prep for that show was going to have to happen in those time periods. And sometimes it gets so busy, real life gets so busy that I can't paint at all for a week. So I was worried. And so I said, well, one of the conditions of me doing the poster was that I would be able to hold on to the original artwork, which belongs to me anyway. But I wanted them to agree that I could put it in my show. Which I did. It was in my show, in that show that opened, I think, 2 weeks ago.
The 6th, right?
The 6th, yeah. However many weeks ago that was.
No, over 2 weeks ago.
So yeah, I forget what your original question was, but that was the
the name of the poster.
The name is Tool Tree Incident.
Tool Tree Incident.
Tool Tree Incident. The name of the original is that, and I named it that long after it was finished. And when I was actually naming stuff for the show, I was going through images and titling them, which is something I usually do like last minute. And that I wanted tool in the title, even though in the original painting, the word tool is not on there, of course. But I called it Tool Tree Incident.
Do you think the trees ate the hot dog?
Oh, you know what? I think that whatever plans they had
are getting canceled out by the fire.
Got changed after the fire. Yeah,
because
right. After this, in my mind, the whole forest burns down.
Oh wow, fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your day job. You are an art director, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm a creative director for an advertising agency. Yeah, which is fun. You know, I mean, it's a good job. It's the only thing I'm qualified for, other than just being a straight up artist.
Mm-hmm.
But I do enjoy health insurance.
Oh yeah.
And I've got kids I got to put through college and all that. So a long time ago, another artist friend said, this actually sounds bad when I say it, but he didn't mean it in a bad way. He said, don't quit your day job, which I know is usually an insult, but what he meant was it's okay to have a day job and do your art on the side. 'Cause, you know, I have nothing but admiration for people who are full-time artists.
Yeah.
I love that. I wish I could do it. I'm not that person because I can only be productive when I'm not full of anxiety and not having any money because I'm only doing art, which you could, you know, and there's people who get there, but it's kind of a rock star. It's kind of a rock star.
You need that stability.
Yeah. Yeah.
I completely identify. I have a corporate day job as well. I'm a corporate chef. Yeah. I've worked 50 hours plus a week, and I try to do podcasting and cool shit on the side. And like you said, you do the best you can with the extra time that you have.
And I look at it as a blessing, really. 'Cause there was a time when I was doing illustration full time, and I found that I did not enjoy that, because after like 10 years of doing that, I realized like that's not what I want to do, because I don't enjoy the sensation. I do like working against deadlines.
Sure.
Because I do my best work that way. But I don't enjoy the sensation of the anxiety and pressure that comes with like, this is it. I have to be painting at all times, all the time. I found myself, I was in my basement like 24 hours a day, not socializing with people. And that's just not something I can really do and feel good. So
do you think that having a day job may keep what you do? Again, you obviously sell art, so you're doing art professionally on both ends, but you have your corporate art, I guess I can say it, and then you have your personal stuff. Do you think that because you have a corporate gig or whatever you want to call it, that now that your personal stuff is more of an outlet and it may be more enjoyable as opposed to just making it your full-time job and then doing the grind?
That I would switch over to that?
No, I'm saying that it probably benefits you that your
like it's like an outlet.
Exactly. Because it's not your full-time job, because there's not so much pressure on your personal art. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of like a hobby. It's kind of like a hobby that I make some money from.
And you're really, really good at it,
Oh, thanks. Why, thank you. But it is, because I'm also okay. I don't have the constitutional fortitude to be a full-time artist like some people are so good at that. But I'm also not a corporate person. It's a great job. I'm very grateful that there's something I can do that someone will actually pay me for. But I get very tired of politics and, all of that garbage that, we all deal with at jobs. So it is great to have this other thing that's meaningful that people seem to care about that I can go do and send it out in the world and people respond to it and like it. That's very gratifying. I'm into it. I love it.
Awesome. Does it ever cross over? Like,
it has before. Yeah, I did one time do some characters for an Esurance commercial. I don't think they exist anymore.
They have floppy arms and stuff.
It did have floppy arms. It did have floppy arms, and I worked with an animator friend of mine, Joey D, and we kind of brought him to life. It was just these little scenarios with people, with these weird characters that I'd come up with that he animated. So that was cool. Usually it doesn't, though. Usually it stays pretty separate. Yeah.
What are you allowed to tell me what? So finding information about you online was very difficult.
Yeah, that's on purpose.
Fair enough.
That's on purpose because 10 years ago, if we'd have done this interview, I wouldn't have admitted that I had a day job, right? Okay. So when I started, because I very intentionally have kept my work stuff off of the internet. I mean, it's out there. Don't get me wrong, but like associating it directly with me, because when I started my art stuff, I wanted to make sure that if people were searching for me, they would find my art stuff. That's what I wanted them to encounter. That's what I wanted my face on the internet to be.
Sure.
And I also don't. Speaking of faces, I don't post pictures of myself on there very much either, which you may have noticed.
Yes.
Part of that is paranoia. Like I don't put pictures of my kids up anywhere on social media or anything like that. Just because I think it was partly because one of the first shows I had was at Gallery 1988 in LA. This was a long time ago.
That was the year I was born.
What's that?
You said
1988?
Yeah, that's the year I was born.
It was a good year.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great gallery, but it was one of my first shows I was doing there, and I'll never forget. I was there at the opening, and there were people coming in and asking about stuff, and what's this about? And this guy comes up and he said, "Oh, this one over here, I wanted to talk to you about this." He's like, "This one is about how you feel insecure and you're looking for a way to express blah, blah, blah." And he went on and on and on. And I was kind of listening to him. And I was like, nothing. And I kind of said, well, I mean, really, it's just a dumb thing that I thought would be funny to paint. He's like, no, this is what this means. And I thought, my kids were little at the time, very, very young, and they were at the show. And I remember thinking to myself, don't go pick up your kid. Don't let him know who your kid. Like, he scared me because I thought, this guy is bananas.
Yeah.
Like, who does that?
Nah, that
but
guy.
It's
crazy people.
It just fell into my natural paranoia,
Yeah. And you were like, from now on, no faces on the internet.
No faces. Yeah.
So saying that, I appreciate you sharing that story. That's wild. I'm sure you've ran into, your handful of, let's just call them odd people.
Most people are okay. 99% of people that I run into or interact with are great. But yeah, every once in a while you get somebody who's kind of out there in a scary way.
Yeah. And I think that happens to people that aren't artists as well. I think that's just normal.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the luck of the draw, normal, about 99%.
Yeah.
So what I was getting to is I was trying to do research on you just in general. And, there's snippets here and there. One of the snippets that I saw, which I thought was kind of funny, is it said that, you were an art director, or, your current title is a creative director, right?
Yeah.
But it said you secretly developed your style while doing that.
Right.
Was it a secret?
It was a secret.
Is this the secret?
It was also a secret. I used to keep it a secret from my work that I was doing art, because I didn't want people to think it's all of this was probably made up in my head, and none of it was necessary, I'm sure. But at the time, it seemed very, very, very important to me to separate those two things. And so to people on the outside, I only wanted them to think of me as the artist guy. And for people on the work side, I only wanted them to think of me as work guy, right? I was just trying to keep those two worlds separate. And now I do look back, because now everybody knows. Everybody.
When did it all come crashing down?
Probably about 6 years ago. I finally just realized, like, what am I doing? Who cares?
It's way too much work.
Yeah. So
I can't hang out with Gary and Stefan from art at the same time, you know?
That's right. Well, it doesn't hurt that I live in Chicago. So I don't get to go to any artist parties usually out in LA. That's the only bad part about living in Chicago.
I mean, you could, but you got kids, and that's probably the one.
That's true.
Do you sell a lot of prints of your art?
I don't sell tons of prints. I have a cool print out right now that I love it, actually. It's called Jaunt Demonic, and Corey Helford Gallery has got that up on their print site. I think it's called DHGprint.com.
Is that the like dark bluish demon looking guy?
Yeah. With the faces on the elbows and whatnot.
Yeah, and he's got like yellow, orange exploding
like a sunburst coming from behind. Yeah.
No, it's super sick. It reminds me, like it definitely has your obvious style, but it reminds me of like Dante's Inferno style art.
It's based on medieval. It's based on a very specific medieval drawing, which I can't tell you who did it. But I basically took a demon from some, woodcut or whatever it was, etching probably. Might have been Dürer or somebody.
Sure.
But it was, I took that and just translated it into my style. And thought, what would I do with this guy if he were a, no elbow having
no knees
strolling across the landscape,
no knuckles at all.
Yeah.
Is he a new character?
Yeah, that one's new. Which I do every once in a while. I'm painting a new one now.
What are you working on now?
It's I'm painting for the Blab show, which is coming up.
I have a question about that. Explain.
Yeah.
Tell me all about that.
The Blab show is, I absolutely love that show. It's a group show, so you only usually do one or two pieces, and it's usually like 12 by 12, so you get a whole room full of just these squares, right? Monty Beauchamp, he does Blab World magazine, and that goes back forever, right? When I first started, I used to I knew him, and I would always hit him up to try and get in Blab.
Okay.
Because it was basically an art book that if I recognized that if I could get in there, it gives you a legitimacy, right? So this was back in the early days, like 2004, 2005. And but if you get yourself in Blab, it makes you're legitimate now. You're a real artist. You did it.
It's exposure.
Exposure, all of that stuff. And he's he was so great because he made me wait for a couple of years before he let me in there. But I'm so glad because because when I started, my style evolved over a period of 4 years, I would say at the beginning. Because I just jumped in. I wasn't ready to be an artist. I just jumped in and I'm going all over the place, but I promise I'll get back to the whole Blab.
I'm ringing it in. I'll ask you the questions about that in a second when you finish this story.
My first show that I ever did was a 2-man show with Ryan Heshka, who is an amazing artist, a friend of mine, but he asked the gallery owner if there was somebody it was a gallery in Chicago, and he asked if there was somebody in Chicago he could show with, because he wanted to. I think he was only interested in doing an amount of paintings that would like cover half the gallery. So the gallery owner contacted me by surprise, out of nowhere. I had never done a show before, and I just said yes, sure. So I just was like, okay, now I've got to paint a bunch of stuff for a show. I didn't know what I was doing. And so my early stuff was pretty crude, I guess. And getting back to the blab thing, I think Monty could see that I had something going on, but he could also see that I wasn't quite there yet. So he made me wait a couple of years and keep working on my stuff.
He Mr. Miyagi'd you.
What's that?
He Mr. Miyagi.
Miyagi, exactly.
He's like, and Danielson.
Exactly. And I'm really grateful for that, because then I feel like by the time he actually let me into a blab show and let me get into the magazine, I was ready by that time. But to come all the way back, that the show's got so many great artists in it. Like, I don't even know. I was just looking at like 30.
Yeah, I have them right. I think there's 4 tool artists on there. Chet Zara's on there. What's his name? Brian. He did San Francisco's poster. He's in here somewhere. There's a ton of cool people. I'll post a picture of it when we put out the episode. But there's a ton.
That's usually a yearly show, and it's always a big deal. And I'm not in it every year. I can't always do it, but I always want to. So
Lori Nelson's going to be there, hopefully. Get well soon, Lori. Ryan Heshka, right? That's
in there?
Yeah, that's who you just referenced. Yeah. Tons of cool people.
Oh yeah, because he did a tool poster too. He had the woman with the kind of fins or whatever on her arm, like that kind of weird, like.
Yes.
All of this stuff is weird. It's so great.
Yeah. So yeah, there's 3 or 4 of you guys right there. Maybe even more that I don't remember their names right off the bat. I try to keep all the tool artists in my brain, but there's 36 plus other tours. So.
Oh yeah.
There was a specific thing. So to finish with Blab, it is. I want to say how you're explaining. It's almost like a gallery, but it's almost like a convention at the same time.
Well, it's a partnership between Blab, which is the magazine, but is also now just sometimes art shows. Like sometimes they take the art that's in the show and put it in a book. Sometimes it's just an art show.
Do you sell anything while you're there?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the pieces are all for sale. It's like a regular gallery group show.
Sure.
It's just that it's under the Blab umbrella, I guess.
I think it's just an excuse for a bunch of talented artists to get together and get wasted.
Basically.
Just let's get the most talented people together in one room, and you know what you should get. Have they ever done like a group painting?
Like where people collab on something?
Yeah.
I don't know. They should do that.
They should. They really should. Sorry. You have this painting that there was some interest online, and the reason I'm interested in it is because somebody wrote that this was this painting called The Fool in a ravine. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's a guy. It's like kind of like a tarot card. The guy. It's a guy singing to the sun like this, and he's walking off a cliff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Online somewhere it said that, and I don't know if this is true or not. I'm going to ask, but they said that you thought that was your best work.
I did say something along those lines. I think lately I've been getting more into fine details, but I've been trying to get in and do more like hidden details that people can find. And I just felt like in that one, I I got the optimal level of detail that I like.
I can tell
so
the
it
difference.
feels rich, like there's a texture to it that I like. I don't always nail it the way I want to, but in that one I felt like I did.
Now, I don't want to sound like that crazy guy at one of your galleries or anything, but are there any hidden meanings in when you get more detailed? Do you find yourself like, okay, I know what this means, or is it just you just want to try it?
No, there's hidden meanings in there, but I can't reveal them to you.
Fair enough.
They're secret.
All right.
One hidden thing in that painting that's fun. That's my dog.
Okay.
That's my dog Olive at the bottom running along. She was, I think, about 5 months old at the time, and I thought, well, I'm going to put her in this painting. And another thing about that particular painting is that it was the artwork that appeared on a deck of cards called the it's for Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if you've ever played it. It's a magical artifact, right?
Okay.
And Luke Gygax, the son of Gary Gygax, who invented the game Dungeons and Dragons, he was putting together a deck of many things with a bunch of different artists for GaryCon. And through another friend who connected me with Luke, I got the Fool card. And so that painting is the image on the card.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. Especially, I know how serious some people take Dungeons and Dragons. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. The other painting I really like is one of your more recent ones is the two trees with the lady in the middle, the dancing oracle.
Yeah. That's such a funny thing. And that's okay. I have something to talk about with this one. It's funny because I painted that painting. That was in this latest show, All Signs Point to Now also. It's a big piece. It's like, well, for me, it's I think 3x3 or 4x4. I forget. It's bigger though for me. And I painted it and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was good enough to put in the show, but I was under pressure and I was like, I painted it. I let it sit around in my studio for weeks while I painted other stuff. And then I finally went back right before it was time to ship stuff off, and I redid all the colors. Like I went back in and I repainted the background, all the backgrounds around everything, to just trying to zhuzh it up a little bit.
Sure.
And I like the way it turned out, but it's funny. There's a thing that happens where the pieces that I think are going to be the big ones that everybody wants, that everybody's into, it doesn't always work out that way. Because, like, I would say that painting, which has proved to be pretty popular amongst people who, follow me or whatever, it was probably my least favorite painting on that show.
Is it still your least favorite?
No, I like it. I like it. But because I do think in the end I got it to a point where, I wouldn't have put it in the show at all if I didn't like it. But
sure.
I did. So I got it to a point where I was like, okay, this is good. I think it's good, but it's not my favorite.
What?
And I'm not sure.
What? Yeah. All right. You're not sure what in particular it is?
Yeah. What is it? What do you like about it? Or
again, just from going through your stuff, I'm trying to compare it to other things that I like as well.
Right. Because the colors are slightly different. I was using slightly different reds and brighter yellows and stuff, which gave it kind of a RGB feel, I think.
Even the composition, I feel, is like a little bit different. You have the two trees on the outside and her in the middle. Like, it almost looks like the other side of the coin to the Tool poster, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The two
very symmetrical.
Yeah, the two trees in the Tool poster are kind of intertwined. They're bright colored, and it's kind of like this eerie evil thing going on. And then this one, they're untwined, but it's bright and they're darker. And there's an alive person who's dancing, and it's pink, and you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like it's the other
like
side.
The happy version.
Yeah, kind of. But I don't know, just the contrast too between pinks and blues. I always really like. The background reminds me of what is it? Vanilla Sky. You know that term?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's just cool. I don't know.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's funny. It is funny though. That's a thing that other artists have told me, have expressed to me, like in the past, like that happens to them too, where the paintings that they like the best sometimes don't do as well, and the ones that they are like, okay, whatever, people really like them. So sometimes you hit a nerve and you're not sure why.
I'm trying to guess on which one you thought was going to be like the most popular one that maybe wasn't, and the one that I'll let you.
Well, actually, I did get that right because I thought the Tool one would be probably the hottest one, the hottest item. And I think people did really like that one.
Yeah.
In this case, but there was one called Doom Tinkle. It's a skeleton playing a xylophone.
Yep.
Marching along a path. People really like that one. I like that one. And then there was a bunny, a sculpture that I did.
Okay.
Little yellow bunny. It's called Long-Armed Luck Rabbit or something like that. I forget. And there was a lot of interest in that one.
And what does that mean, interest?
A lot of people wanting it, right? Like, I think there was a lot of competition to actually buy it because there's a pre-sale. The way these shows work, if you contact the gallery, they send you a list of the artwork, and then there's a date where there's a pre-sale, and you can email them, and whoever's first or whatever can buy the pieces that they want. So I think my understanding is that there was a lot of competition for that.
And by competition, I'm guessing like a bidding war. Like I got.
No, they don't bid. There's a price. There's a set price. It's more just timing, right? Like who gets their request in first.
Gotcha. And there's only one.
There's only one.
Yeah. Do you remember the first big painting that you sold where you're like, wait a second, somebody gave me this much money for something I created in my office?
Well, you mean like big in terms of like, oh, I could actually make some money at that?
Yeah. Or if maybe you crossed that threshold from it being like a hobby to now I'm a professional.
You know what? I have painted so many paintings at this point. I can't remember what the first kind of big one would be. I mean, when I first started, almost everything was small, like this size. Because that's all I could manage. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just painting as fast as I could, and just trying to get enough pieces to put in the show. It's funny. I don't know the answer to that question.
Fair enough.
Too many things.
Could you always draw like throughout your whole life?
Kind of, yes. Kind of. I've always had an aptitude for it, but I've always, like I said earlier, I've always been inherently lazy. So
yeah,
I don't sit around and draw in my spare time.
So what was your catalyst?
What's the catalyst?
Yeah, for you to.
Deadline.
No. I mean, like originally, you're working a job, and you had to at one point decide, okay, you say you're lazy, so something had to get you to not be lazy, because a lazy man doesn't make this many paintings.
There was a moment. There were probably a couple of moments like this, but I do remember one distinct moment. I was living in Warsaw, Poland at the time for my job. I lived there for a couple of years, and I got an issue of some art magazine. I'm blanking on which one it was, and there was a Camille Rose Garcia painting in there, and I and I remember looking at that, and I've always loved her stuff so much, and I remember looking at that and thinking, I could paint, I could do this, I could, you know, why don't I do this? This is what I want to do. So I did. I sat down and I painted something, and I showed a friend of mine who was also working over there at the time. He was like, "Yeah, that's not very good." It was really bad because you have to.
Like,
I didn't know what I was doing at all.
He said, "Don't quit your day job, Travis.
Don't quit your day job." Yeah, no, that's essentially what he said, but in a bad way that time. So I sucked when I started, and it took probably from that time. It probably took 3 years before.
Wow.
Before I actually put something in a show. So originally I thought I would just be an illustrator.
Sure.
Right. So. And
as an illustrator, that would somebody again working in corporate stuff or doing comic books or posters or just
anything really
logos and
not logos so much. That's more designer, but did a lot of editorial work for Bicycle magazine. There used to be magazines. They were made out of paper.
And I've heard of these. I've heard of these.
Yeah. They'd have words in them and stuff and pictures. I used to do for Bicycle magazine. Of all things, Golf magazine or Golf Digest or something. I did a lot of work for them. It's funny, but I had several other clients like that. And then just product stuff or album covers or whatever it is, that kind of stuff.
How many other album covers have you done?
Not too many, and some of them were existing art.
Gotcha.
But I did one for the Pauses,
okay.
A band who I think is based in Florida now.
I'm gonna look them up.
They're still kicking around. They're still doing stuff. But they got me, asked me to do a CD 6-panel thing, which I made look like a children's book.
That's awesome.
It turned out cool. I was very happy with it. So that was fun. They ended up making a record of it too. I also did another one. This was using existing art for Ghosts and Vodka. I just happened to have a painting that had ghosts and vodka in it, I think was one of the reasons they wanted me. So I've done that, but not too many album covers. So.
Do you collect other artists' stuff at all?
Yes, I do.
Other than Camille Rose Garcia, who else influences you? Who else do you like? And do you ever feel like a competitive nature?
No, not competitive at all. And here's why. The artists that I really like are all much better than me. They're all much better painters than me, right? Camille Rose Garcia, Ryan Heshka, who I mentioned before. He's a good friend of mine, but I'm a big fan. Who else? I've always loved Gary Baseman's stuff. Brandy Milne, I'm a big fan. I've got some pieces of hers. Many years ago, there was a kind of a trading thing going on between artists, and we traded some work, and I've always loved that stuff. So there's artists like that I don't, ironically, I don't go out and spend millions of dollars on stuff, I'm not
who can? I mean, people, some people can. Some people can. I can. I think that's why I buy tool posters. They're on the expensive level, but you still get really cool art from artists that aren't $5,000 or $70,000.
Exactly.
How often do you paint stuff outside of your style? Do you ever
outside of my style?
Yeah, do you ever experiment with elbows and knees?
No, God, never. Are you kidding me?
But you know what I mean.
Elbows? Yeah, no, I don't. I don't do stuff outside of my style, partly just because there's no time. I don't have time to do that. It's not that I wouldn't, because there's other styles I love, but, I very intentionally developed my own style, I guess, in order to have
a voice,
to differentiate from other artists. And so my goal is to always try to make my own style a little better, evolve it over the years, just little by little. You probably wouldn't notice,
I noticed,
unless you look at very early stuff compared to right now stuff. You probably wouldn't notice, but it's been changing over the years.
I went through your entire Instagram, so, and just with that, I don't know how far that goes back, but specifically what's the demon one called again? The
John Demonic.
Yeah, John Demonic.
Yeah.
To me, just from early, what I consider early on your Instagram to that, I mean, this, like you said, detail. It just feels full. It feels really full and substantial. I don't know. Describing art is always awkward for me.
Yeah. No, I get it. Well, when I very, very first started, my stuff was pretty crude by my own estimation. So that's my focus, really. It's not trying to, although I think any artistic endeavor is worth it if you can spend the time to do it, because it'll make you better at other stuff. Honestly, that crosses over some too, because a big part of my art is posting, and I write little captions about stuff.
Yeah.
Or little dumb stories about stuff. But part of that is because of my job. I write funny stuff all day long, every day, right? We're coming up with funny ideas for commercials and stuff. And so I've had practice over the years of
especially you see it especially on your Twitter. Like if you go through your Twitter.
Yes.
Because on Instagram, you don't see the comments right away. You don't see the little quips. But no, they're funny. I'm like, this guy's a gangster.
I have fun. I amuse myself.
I got a couple more questions. I won't take up too much more of your time.
Okay.
You made this cool, picture box thing. Almost like,
oh yeah,
it was like two different levels, and it's almost like a flip book, but on two.
That's a company called Flip Book It.
Okay.
And they did a show, if I'm remembering this right. They did a show where, how did this work? Or maybe they just asked me to do one. I honestly don't remember now if it was a show or if they just asked me to do one as an example of some kind. But yeah, they kind of developed that. It was existing technology, but they made it in a way where you could buy it and do one of your own.
It was super cool. It almost felt like that was 120 years old.
That's the other thing I get from my job is that I have to know how to do Photoshop, and I use Photoshop every day in my job. Well, not so much every day anymore, but I've used Photoshop a lot over the years. And so I took a painting of mine and Photoshopped all of the frames.
Okay.
Like the leg movement and the background going by and everything, and made an animation out of that. So, and I put filters on there to make it feel older.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened.
Again, so working with Photoshop, do you ever do your personal art digitally?
No. I have a lot of respect for digital artists who are very good, and there's beautiful stuff out there that you look at and sometimes you can't even tell it's digital.
Yeah.
I see it as a tool. It's just not the tool that I like to use for my own personal art. I like to have a thing that I can hold in my hands at the end of it, like an artifact. Sure. That's a big part of it for me. So yeah.
Have you heard anything about this artificial intelligent art?
I messed around with it recently.
Me too. I just did a couple of things.
It's banana. What do you think?
Dude, it's nuts.
Kind of bananas.
Like, I did some random thing yesterday, just alien something or other, style, detail, whatever, the My Journey, I think it's called, or whatever, the little Discord. And I guess my question is, so again, I would love, like I'm talking to all these artists, I would love to learn how to paint. And I think I get caught up on is one of the questions I talked to you about earlier is, how do you just start like an idea? And you said sketches. And I'm wondering if this would be a good tool, or if it's cheating to use it as a baseline of like, okay, this is kind of what I like. Maybe I can start there and then paint my own shit.
I think that's valid. I guess I feel I'm of two minds about it. I do feel like it's cheating in a way.
Me too.
But it's more like cheating yourself, right?
Sure.
Because you're letting randomness or, AI intelligence do the hard work for you and figure out. You're not learning how to do all those textures and stuff on your own. You're letting it figure those things out for you. But at the same time, maybe that could be a stepping stone to something else that genuinely is creative.
Sure.
So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think I would use it for that. Well, you know what it could do is it could give you a certain feel that you want to go for. That I think is valid.
Agreed. I know I haven't messed with it too much. I know a lot of people that are, not a lot, but I've heard of people who are using it, and then, like I said, is it cheating yourself? Probably.
And there's no skill. There's no skill involved unless you consider thinking of different descriptive words of skill. You know what I mean?
100% agree. At the same time, we live in a new world.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, and I think part of my thing is, and I don't really have an excuse because of you now, but I work 50 hours a week, yada yada. Anything that can help, I think is a good tool, as long as your end product is all you, in my opinion. But because again, I know artists that have done, I won't name names, but have done really big stuff. I mean, they can make something that sells for millions of dollars in 30 seconds by adding a couple of filters, and you're like, damn, all right.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
So where's the line is all, what I'm saying?
Where's the line? Yeah. I'm not a curmudgeon. I'm not oh, the world's going to hell, whatever. It's like, I'm fascinated by it. Exactly. I think it's cool. I just wouldn't use it for my own personal art. But I've seen things that, like my girls did one the other day. We were messing around with it on what's the app? Discord.
Yeah.
There's a Discord channel where you can do it.
I think that's the only place you can do it.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure, but we were messing around with it, and they combined like tentacles, cake, and Sweden, and they got back the most beautiful, like weird cakes on these like colorful background. It was so cool.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you know what? Like you said, you could look at that and go, oh, I kind of want to do art that feels like that. I mean, honestly,
exactly.
Like I looked at something someone else made and got inspired by that.
Sure.
Well, I guess why not, right?
No offense, man. You got inspiration from Steamboat Willie. So,
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like, absolutely. There's a lot of artists who have this similar, inspiration, right? Junkyard LA has got kind of an aesthetic like that. Camille Rose Garcia is inspired by, old time and stuff like that. It's exactly like you say, how do you make it your own? And for me, it was, I took more than one inspiration and kind of mashed them together. And then I found distinctive elements, like it very intentionally, the noses, for one thing. That's kind of my signature thing, I guess, if there's anything, and some of my colors that I use. But you just have to, if I were giving advice to an artist or somebody who wanted to be an artist, just, find that thing that when people look at it, they go, oh, that is a Travis Lampe. That's how I know.
It's got the teeth, the
there
nose,
really is
and no
nothing new under
elbows.
the sun. And no elbows, never.
No elbows,
Never an elbow.
the teeth, and the nose.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. It really was.
Well, thanks for having me. And I'm totally stealing your windsock idea. I'm going to do that.
Please show it to me later.
I'll give you credit.
Thanks. I got one other question before you go.
Okay.
Are you a Tool fan?
Yes, I am a Tool fan. I've fallen off of music in my
in general
old age. Well, I don't. I normally listen to podcasts while I paint.
Me too.
But I started listening to them back in 94-ish, 93, 94, when Undertow came out. I forget the exact year, but
that's about right.
Just love their music. And it's funny because it's not a style that I normally listen to, right? But love that album. The videos, I think, really drew me in too. And Adam Jones did all the animation stuff.
Yeah,
it's insane. I love that stuff. So yes, I am a fan. I one time got punched really hard at a Tool concert, so that was great. It didn't diminish my love for them.
I think
they're really unique.
Yeah, they 100%. Do you have a favorite song? Or sorry, the better question. When you think of them, what's the first song that comes into your head?
Probably Sober from that album.
Sure.
It's probably like a kind of a stock answer, but I love that. But I kind of, that's my answer.
Fair
Although
enough.
really, I just like the whole album.
Yeah.
Right. Everything on it is good. So. And their new album is great too.
No, it's super good. Would you do another Tool poster?
Yes. You know where I am, Adam.
Right. Well, do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can find you. Do the whole plug thing, and yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. So you can normally where you're gonna find my stuff is on Instagram. That's where I post all the time, and Twitter. I always copy it to there. That's just at Travis Lampe, all one word. I have a website that I haven't updated in 12 years. It's travislampe.com.
I looked for it. It didn't even come up.
Yeah. It's just my name, Travis Lampe, all one word.com. But I need to update that. But yeah, social media, that's where you can find me almost always.
Well, again, Travis Lampe, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This was so fun. Yeah, this was great. Yeah. I was a little nervous before this. I always get a little nervous, and then you start talking to somebody, you're like, all right, he's a nice guy. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. I'm intimidating. I get it.
Gary. Spiral Out Podcast is produced by me, your host, Chris West, edited by me, researched by me. Everything is pretty much just done by me. Go to our website, spiraloutpod.podbean.com. Follow us on Instagram at spiral_out_pod. Facebook, Spiral Out Podcast. And again, if you want to see some of the images associated with this episode, click the link in the show notes and it'll take you there. Again, thank you for listening. Spiral Out. Pod dismissed. Wait, that's another show.